What is up, everyone, and welcome to the Real Ones Canes podcast. He is Cam Underwood, managing editor of State of the U. Go check it out. It's a Miami Hurricanes community. That's what it is. It's open 24/7, 365. And all the Canes news you want and need, it's right there. Go interact with the folks at stateoftheu.com. Myself, I'm Brian the Beast London. I'm managing editor of this new $10 ring light I got on Amazon that is now flashing in my face. It's so pristine and nice for $10. What a great deal. And I got it before the tariffs kicked in. So there's that. Okay.
All good things, yeah. I was wondering if you had a new ring light because I can, depending on where you are, I can see it in the reflection of your glasses. I was like,
I have it on like the lowest setting. I can crank it up. I can
see it now.
I can get it buzzing. We can get really bright here if you want.
No, hey, I'm just saying, like, it's just depending on where you are in relation to your camera, you can see the reflection of the light is all. So, no, you're good.
All right. Let's start with the NFL draft. It was the weekend that just passed. And for the first time since 1991, a Miami Hurricanes name was the first one called by the NFL commissioner. With the first pick of the NFL draft, Cam Ward went to the Tennessee Titans, and I had all of the feels until ESPN decided to ruin it by not showing his interview and then talking about Shedeur Sanders for the next 3 days. But Cam Ward, first pick in the draft, pretty freaking awesome.
Super, super awesome. Congratulations to that man. I know everybody. It's the running gag with me that anybody named Cam is my favorite player.
Of course.
And everything. I mean, because like you see on the screen, but obviously, why would it not be? But he's such a great guy, and he has worked his tail off to get to the level of success that he's had. Everybody knows all the parts of the story. Played in a wing T offense in West Columbia, Texas, because that's not Allen or, South Lake Carroll or something. Right. That's like, they have the kids from the little town. They don't really have great talent, so they run the wing T. This is a guy who threw fewer than 80 passes his senior year in high school. Goes to recruiting camps, not really, worked with the coach, sent out his tape, all these places, catches on with Incarnate Word down in San Antonio during the COVID year, immediately rises from 7th to 1st on the depth chart, sets records, FCS Freshman of the Year, comes back the next year, leads them to the second round of the playoffs, transfers to Wazoo, does numbers there, kicks the tires on the draft last year, got a 4th or 5th round grade, said, you know what, I'm going to Miami and betting on myself because I believe that I'm like that, and has the single best season of any quarterback in Miami Hurricanes history and is drafted number 1 overall. If that's not a 30 for 30, if that's not your favorite sports franchise movie, if that's not a book, right, of the ascension of this guy, not because of who his daddy is, not because of what his last name is, not because his dad was famous and a guy who got it from the mud at every single level to be the number 1 overall pick. Why is that not being discussed? Because this other inferior quarterback that I've been saying all along, and so many football people agree, because he is inferior in comparison to Cam Ward. There is no comparison to their level of talent. Just like I said during the playoff discussion, Miami and Tennessee was the point of comparison, not Miami and a 3-loss Alabama. And they did that same thing, dragging Cam Ward's name down to attach it to Shedeur Sanders. It's laughable, it's despicable and deplorable that they robbed that man of his duly earned spotlight. And I know that, there's a level of meritocracy to sports, because if you play well, then you earn whatever and everything. But to rob him of the full sunshine spotlight of the moment of being the number 1 overall pick out of any and everybody, deplorable. But, hey, congratulations to Cam. This was not a secret. We saw the whole entire Titans organization down on campus for the Miami Pro Day, where they brought all of the content creation teams with them and had another private workout a couple days later. This has been one of the worst kept secrets in the NFL draft this year. We knew that he was going to go number 1, but like you, I'm a little incensed that the that Cam Ward did not receive the flowers that he should have gotten in that moment.
So, I think I don't want to badmouth any other player. And certainly Shedeur Sanders has had his issues. And, I wish him the best of luck. I hope he's successful with the Cleveland Browns. But a lot has been made about his pre-draft interviews and all of this stuff. And my wife actually brought up an interesting point. Remember, my wife's a Gator, so it's not like she's, she's not like us. So, yeah, I know. I'm sorry. Can't help who you love. But she made it. She just every time she would see Cam Ward, she's like, he just seems so level-headed and just so, he doesn't get too high, he doesn't get too low, and he seems like he really gets it. She would always make that comment. And I think above and beyond the fact that he's incredibly physically gifted and talented, right? I think it's what's up here, upstairs. But if you're listening, I'm pointing to my head, that separates him even more from the others. Because he not only is level-headed and he doesn't get too high and get too low. Not only does he get it, but he really gets it. Like, he really understands it. And I think that's really just a big credit to that young man for, again, what you said, betting on himself and turning himself into what would have been a project in the NFL to a guy that is probably going to start on opening day.
Yeah. And I mean, like, you saw the necessary growth in his game last year. Did he have a couple really, really, really bad, oh my God, what the hell are you thinking throws?
Sure.
Yes, he did. Gunslinger trying to make something happen. But a thing that everybody said at this point last year was Cam Ward does not play on time. As in, 3-step drop, takes 3 steps, and that ball comes out. Wherever it needs to go, but not just holding it and running around and whatever. Played on time, played from the pocket a lot. Now I know that the highlights were running around and everything because he has that highlight gene ability. But if you really look at it, boom, he's playing from the pocket way more than you thought and better than people thought. And he himself also said, and this I think is going to help in recruiting moving forward. You know what the biggest part of growth that he had last year? Cam Ward, in his own words, he said working with Miami's offense and learning protections from Alex Mirabal, the offensive line coach, because seeing them and being able to set them, that then provided the pocket so I didn't have to run. I mean, I ran around when I wanted to or needed to, but learning that and seeing that and working with the center to set proper protections, that was the biggest thing. And if you see all these dots that he threw all last year and taking the time, okay, cool. Yeah, I got it, coach. We're talking to the offensive line, looking up and then having the protection and then having the ball come out on time because he knew this is where a free rush was going to come from. I've now covered that up because I have a deeper knowledge of protections. That's necessary, especially at this next level. So all the things he needed to do better, he did better. And the things that were bad, like the fumbles, he only had 2. Like the interceptions, he only had 7. All the things that were bad that needed to improve also did. So he got better at the good things and negated the bad things. What's not
so? Yeah, no doubt. We can talk about Cam Ward for hours and hours, and there should be a 30 for 30 if there's not already, because you go from a 0-star to the first pick in the draft. That is one hell of a story. I hope someone's making that documentary, and I hope Cam gets all of the money from that as well, because we're in the times of player empowerment and owning their own rights and all of that stuff. But we must move on to the rest of the draft, Cam. And Elijah Arroyo, no surprise, was the next Cane taken by the Seattle Seahawks. He'll be joined out there by Damian Martinez, who was drafted later by them. We could go down the list of guys that were drafted, and I applaud all of them. But I feel like we're going to have the most to say about guys that weren't drafted.
Yeah, I think that's going to be true. But just to, circle back on the ones that were, Arroyo at 50, I thought he was going to be in, the conversation for a top 50 pick, and he hit at double bullseye center at 50. And they had Jimmy Graham up there for a bunch of years. So in Seattle, and that's a good fit, I think, for Arroyo. He's a very talented, athletic player, and they needed that in their offense. Also, Damian Martinez. Whoever the coach and GM, but like the organization of the Seattle Seahawks loves Miami running backs. Like in the past 7-8 years, they've drafted DJ Dallas, Travis Homer, and now Damian Martinez, all to the same organization. So, that has to be proof positive of something that we're doing well here. And I know that, the other two backs were taken earlier. Damian Martinez was a 7th round pick, but still, that's a very close connection to the Miami running back room and the Seattle Seahawks. So good on them for that. Jalen Rivers in the 5th to Cincinnati. I think that's a good fit. They need offensive line really badly. For sure. And he's somebody who can play pretty much any and all of the positions. Kiko Mawinoa and Tyler Barron both going to the Jets in the 5th round. I think that, they have the physical talent to make that roster. I think there's maybe an easier path for Tyler Barron just because he's more of a freak athlete. But I like, potentially adding that. And that's an organization that's done well on defense over the course of many, many, many moons. Your favorite team gets to continue the Borregales kicking dynasty up there.
Yeah, the New England Patriots picked up Andy Borregales, and it's funny. I watched his. He jumps on a Zoom with all the beat writers right after they're drafted, before they come into the building the next day and then do a presser. And I watched Andy's kind of Zoom call with the Boston beat reporters, and there's all these guys like, "Hey, Andy, this is Mike from the Herald."
I'm out here in Waltham.
It's Waltham. Whatchamacallit? It seems like you're a great kicker, but do we call you Andres or Andy? That was like the big question. And he was just laughing. But it's funny. Borregales, he was like, "Yeah, I just want to be the next Adam Vinatieri, man. It's like I just want to be the next Steve Gostkowski." Like he already knew he was ready, and that's because as he revealed, he kind of knew he was going to be drafted by the Patriots. They'd kind of told him, like, "Okay, hey, you're going to be our guy." So he had studied up, but yeah, really happy that he ended up with my New England Patriots.
Good. I mean, good for him. Good for y'all. Even though I don't root for that team, but look, he was the number 1 kicker all the way through this draft cycle. He was the first kicker taken this year.
It was coming down to him and the guy from Arizona. I'm trying to think.
Whatever. Somebody else who didn't end up getting drafted before him, but yeah. But good for him and good for all of the guys who did get drafted. There is more conversation to be had because there were a lot of draft eligible Hurricanes who were not drafted. I don't know how you want to take that conversation.
Yeah, so we'll just pull the curtains all the way open. Okay, Xavier Restrepo. If you asked me somewhere towards the end of the season, before any bowl game, before anything, I would have said this guy's got to be a 3rd round pick, at worst 4th round pick, right? Then he didn't play in the bowl game, and I'm like, either he's way too confident and knows something or making a bad decision, right? And then he pulled the pro day situation where was he hurt? He ran up 4.83 or 4.8, depending on who you talk to. And was it his hamstring? And do we really know what happened? And now he doesn't get drafted. He does end up in a decent landing spot in the fact that he'll be able to probably shack up with Cam Ward, who's probably going to get a nice house in Tennessee. But it's a tough go as an undrafted free agent. And I know you have a lot to say on this topic that has to do with Xavier and just the topic in general. So I'll let you have at it.
Well, I mean, that's obviously the thing that people are looking at. Like the all-time career leading receiver at Miami goes undrafted. I was very staunch in my statement that deciding against multiple pieces of advice at Pro Day to run after having tweaked his hamstring, apparently during warmups, and letting that be known was a very, very stupid decision. I think that came back to bite him. He's not the most athletic guy. We know that he is, his heart, you can't measure that, but he's 5'8 3/4 and ran 4'8", 4'9". Like, I'm sorry, like, this is professional sports. Those things matter, guys. My thought was similar to yours, that he was like, on production he's probably a 2, but like, if you're drafting athletes,
right,
you're gonna fall down. I'm sorry. Shamar Stewart was a top 15 pick, and he had 4.5 career sacks in college. Excuse me, but he was the most ridiculous superhuman mutant athlete almost ever seen.
1,000%.
So it's the inverse there. I wanted to take it a step further in a different direction. So talking about Xavier specifically is kind of the micro. So, like, evaluating him, because we could talk about Sam Brown, also undrafted free agent. We could talk about Jacoby George, undrafted free agent. And the macro for me is putting all of those together. Cam Ward set records, had the number 1 offense in America with 0 wide receivers that he threw to getting drafted. You might get one next year with Isaiah Horton. Correct. But you had Arroyo, okay, someone who caught passes. You had Martinez, who caught checkdowns. But like, someone who lined up outside, like a wide receiver whose basically sole job is to catch passes. Cam Ward rewrote the record book with a bunch of dudes who are undrafted free agents. I think if you were not super duper impressed by the record-setting year that we saw from Cam Ward already, this has to raise the level of respect for that, exponentially. You know what I mean? Like, this is like, it's not the same because the other player was more of a physical monster and he did it running and throwing, but it's akin to Cam Newton's 2010 season, where he did everything for Auburn. They won a national championship, and he played with a whole team where no offensive player had a single snap in the NFL. It's obviously, when you have a top 50 tight end, it's not the same, but like, this is pretty crazy.
It's the 180, like, reverse Johnny Manziel had Mike Evans. Right. We saw what happened with Johnny Manziel in the NFL. Like, he wasn't cut out for the next level, but he was throwing to like one of the best receivers we've seen in the last couple of decades. Right. So, opposite.
Yeah. So, and everybody did numbers. Everybody got off. Everybody is open. Everybody's making. And if you think about each and every one of those 3 receivers, there's at least a singular play, a highlight standout play of the year type play that they all made. Jacoby George had the literal play of the year back in the end zone at Florida. Like, we know that. I said that at the time during that game. I said, that's your play of the year. That's the lead of the highlight. Boom. It's stupid playmaking on all levels by both of those guys. By
the way, someone go check my Twitter. As soon as Cam Ward throws that pass, I said on X, I said, that is an NFL throw right there.
Oh, yeah. And it was. Yeah. Sam Brown at USF, the whole shot up the sideline before the half. Bang, gone. He had another one too, but that's probably the one that you think of. Restrepo. There's a million. You got the record setter against Duke. You got the tip ball against Virginia Tech. You got the out and up both times at Louisville and at Georgia Tech, and probably a couple other ones. Like, you can look at each one of these, and these are super impactful plays. As I've said them, if you're watching or listening, you remembered that play, and you know what that looked like because you remember that moment, because they were capital letters moments. None of them got drafted. And I'm not even saying that to cast aspersions. I'm saying this is the level of excellence that Cam Ward exuded, that you're playing with a bunch of dudes who didn't get drafted even, and rewriting the record book. And again, I know that Martinez was a 7 and he caught the 6 most passes on the team. And I know that Elijah Arroyo was a top 50, but the receivers did nothing. And, then you have one of them transfer to Alabama. He could probably get drafted. But yeah, it just really underscores the excellence that we saw from Cam Ward in a different kind of a way.
And then it makes you think about if only the defense were average.
I mean, Nick Saban said it during the draft. He said if Miami played any kind of defense, they would have won a national championship. And I saw so many people who were getting upset by that. And I quoted it and said, he's like, where's the lie?
Yeah,
he's not wrong.
Yeah.
Like, and it was funny, like we talked about it all year. I don't know if you were there or if you'd gone to the restroom during halftime when Manny Navarro screamed in my face about it. About like expecting more from the defense that we all knew was going to be terrible. And I was like, you know what, Manny, you kind of read me for filth, but you're right. So I kind of had to like sit there and take it. But like, as I look in total defense, like, well, that's probably not the best measure. But okay, yeah, 327 yards a game. No, I need to look at scoring defense. National leaders in scoring defense, fine. Miami, 68th. Tied for 68th with UCLA in scoring defense. And that's not good enough. And like that's actually really, really good because it's skewed by the early season games where teams didn't score much, right? And that doesn't even go into other things like, yards allowed and conversions allowed and blah, blah, because, we're podcasting live and I didn't prepare to these talking points. But the defense was openly atrocious. And again, if Miami gets one, uno, ein, I've said one in a bunch of different languages for you all. Ichi, san, si, like, one stop at Syracuse. We're in the college football playoff. One. Choose your one, right?
On fourth down would be good.
Look, just one. And honestly, it would have been one more because we did get a stop early.
Yeah.
Because they had an illegal formation on a double pass for a touchdown on the first thing, which I was like, oh my God, they're doing this. And then, okay, they called that back, which was the right call. You get a stop there. Boom, 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 score. But after we went up 21-0, we needed a singular stop, and couldn't get it. I'm raising my hand. If you're listening and not watching, I'm just raising my hands with the apoplectic look on my face because like I'm still frustrated that the defense was that bad.
So in wrapping this segment up, the grade you would give the Miami Hurricanes draft day would be what?
It's a good question.
Being that you have the number one overall pick,
right?
But also
a bunch of dudes not drafted.
A bunch of guys not drafted. Yes.
I think that I'm going to give it a B, like boy.
Oh, we're right there. Okay, we're on the same
because
page.
Like it has to be skewed to the positive side,
right?
Because you have the number one overall pick, and then you have a top 50 pick who's actually number 50 himself in Arroyo, and then a couple of guys mixed in. I thought Jalen Rivers in the 5th. That's about where I had him. I was hoping maybe 4th, but middle of the 5th, fine. You get Kiko and Barron in the 5th, and I had them probably as 6s or 7s.
Right.
And that kind of inverted with Martinez, who I thought could have been a little bit of a higher pick.
Yes.
Borgal's in the 6th. I mean, it was very obvious that he was going to get drafted, so I did enjoy that. But yeah, I thought that a couple of the other guys could have been drafted, whether it was one of the receivers, whether it was Mish Powell, whether it was Daryl Porter, whether it was Malik Barrow or Simeon Barrow, excuse me, who was first team all ACC, by the way, at defensive tackle. I think that there were a couple of too many undrafted guys to really go higher. So like if Cam Ward had not been the number one overall pick, I would probably say, see like Charlie. But I'm upgrading a full letter grade because we had the number one overall pick in the draft.
Yeah, no, I'm ditto. I'm totally with you on that. So we agree. All right, we're gonna take a break. On the other side, there's plenty of portal news, including some breaking news. We're recording this Tuesday afternoon around 3 p.m. Miami just secured the commitment of a kid in the portal. So we will talk about that and the rest of the portal news on the other side. You're listening and watching the Real Ones Canes podcast. Welcome back to the Real Ones Canes podcast. He is Cam Underwood. Follow him on the X at Underwood Sports. You can go read all of his great content at stateoftheu.com, where he is the managing editor. Lots of stuff up there. There is the Monday Musings is back.
Yeah.
So we get some good stuff from, was it Craig Smith? Is that
Yeah,
right?
yeah. He was on family vacation, but back
Yeah.
with something new, and got a couple other things up there for you guys. Maybe looking forward to the 2026 NFL draft and how Miami fits into that. A 3-part series from Justin DeTavio about the different levels of talent acquisition, development, and deployment in the ACC.
I like it.
And more great stuff, only a click away, stateoftheu.com. Please come on over and fan with us. Hop in the comments, let us know, because, hey, we're passionate Canes fans, and most of us alums also, and I think that we have great commentary and analysis, and I believe that you would enjoy it.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I'm Brian London. You can follow me at Miami Radio Beast. I don't have any website to manage or to write content for, but I'm for hire, so there's that. Really, for anything, not just for content. You can hire me to do anything. I mean, don't hire me to do your dishes. I'll do a bad job. We got to get into the transfer portal, Cam. It is so the portal is closed. No one else can enter the portal, but there's plenty of people out there that haven't found a home yet that Miami is targeting. Now, the good thing is, correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm doing this off of memory, I think they only lost 5 kids in the portal. I think
that sounds about right.
Okay, so, and of the kids they lost, the only one that I batted an eye at was Zaquan Patterson.
Yeah,
that's the only one that I had some emotions about, right? But one kid doesn't make your roster, so there you are, right? And then the other surprise, which we could talk about now, or we can wait and bring it on the other side of the conversation about who Miami's looking at, which is you didn't lose Emory Williams, which was kind of surprising to me. Interesting.
Yeah.
I think he had some offers and decided to stay put. And as Cam told me before the show, the grass is not always greener.
Pretty much. I mean, that's what it comes down to. I mean, the only other thing I'll say before I get on the Emory Williams point is I had half of an emotion, or thought of an emotion, when Josh Horton went into the portal as well, just because I wanted to see him develop as a big interior defensive lineman.
Sure.
I'm surprised that you didn't cry, crocodile tears at Abram Murray, the kicker, leaving, because I know how much you love your kickers, Brian. But
I do love kickers, but I don't like it when they can't make field goals.
Exactly. But yeah, Emory Williams, that's a good place to start, because he's still here. And yeah, I think, he got a different NIL representative group. He changed his representatives at the beginning of the spring. And, there were some deals or, offers and conversations, because that's why you hire a management group. So they do it, and everything.
Right.
But yeah, I'm pretty sure he's getting 6 figures. Emory Williams is at Miami right now. That's my very learned opinion and guess. I don't know for sure the number, but I'm very confident it's in that range. And I don't think he was going to get the same number elsewhere. And remember, he was in the same recruiting class as Jaden Rashada I know he was committed before Rashada and got a nice deal then and whatnot. But, you're going to probably devalue yourself if you're leaving, because we've seen what you do on the field, and we were kind of running the hypothetical situation, before we started recruiting, Brian and I, and he was saying, so what if he went, somewhere and named a couple of private schools? I'm like, well, they have financial backing, which is kind of an outlier situation. So that number is different. And I know some of the machinations of those schools, which is why I made the specific pushback. And I'm not mentioning the names, because if I were, it would skew things. But if you're talking about if he were to go, Emory, to a Appalachian State, which lost their starter, if he was going to go to South Alabama or something like that, you're probably still going to take a 10 to 20% discount on the number that you're getting now to go and compete to start at a lower level team. Let's be perfectly honest, that's where he is right now. And looking at all of those things, And then also going to school in Coral Gables and walking by the UC patio and seeing the sights that are at the UC patio, if you know what I mean, is like, I feel very confident here. And I think, he would rather stay here, obviously, and the action belies that intent. But also, if I'm getting very serious, he's betting on himself, Emory Williams, not once but twice. He's betting on himself that if Carson Beck gets any kind of injury, whether it's for a play or a season, he's the next guy in now. And by staying, he's also betting on himself potentially for next year in 26. I'm saying, I've been here for 3 years already. I'm going to do all the work. I'm going to lift all the weights. I'm going to know the playbook inside and out. I'm going to know my skill set inside and out. And I'm going to know how to operate within this offense to my best ability, because there's no barrier for entry of, okay, you call, your protections Lucy and Riley somewhere else, and it's Lettuce and Rigatoni, at a different school. Which
Louis and Ricky,
right?
Yeah.
Exactly, or whatever, right? So now you got to remember that I'm coming from a Lucy and Ronnie, and it's Louis and Ricky, and it's close, but it's not the same, and you don't have any of that mental barrier for entry, right? So Emory Williams, really, I think was like, look, I'm comfortable where I am. The offers that he heard of through his management group were not to the level to entice him to leave. And betting on himself both now and for the future. And just like I said, even though I'm saying betting on himself potentially for 26, that doesn't mean that he cannot and might not go in the future.
Right.
But as of today, right now, I believe the betting on himself is not just for the scraps of playing time that could potentially be there this year, but setting himself on a trajectory potentially for next year as well.
Yeah, I mean, listen, at this point, college football is basically a week-by-week situation, if not a day-by-day situation of what team a kid is on. So nothing is settled, but he bet on himself for now. All right, so let's talk about some of the targets that Miami guard or that Miami is looking at. We'll start with the breaking news that we just got before we started recording here, again, Tuesday afternoon, just after 3 p.m. Eastern. Miami picks up a commitment from a wide receiver, Cincinnati's Tony Johnson, originally from Ocala, started off, I think, maybe as a walk-on at FAU. 48 catches, 449 yards, 6 touchdowns last season. A kid that's 6 foot, 190 pounds, or give or take, depending on whose tweet you read. And a kid that has 1,100 yards and 13 touchdowns and 108 career catches throughout his career. So listen, a Florida kid comes back to the state of Florida and signs with the University of Miami. And I wonder, you think they're done now at wide receiver?
I think at receiver, probably, because also, not to spoil anything, but Keelan Marion, a receiver and All-American return man from BYU, also recently committed, all on, I think, Friday, because there were Tony Johnson was today, but Marion and 2 others were on Friday. So I think with the 2 of them, they probably are, unless I don't know that there's any super duper star still out there at receiver specifically. And also, I think that rounds out the room. Tony Johnson does play, he can play inside and out. So I'm interested to see how that affects, Malachi Tony and Ray Joseph moving forward into the season, because that was my big pushback on taking Trevor Pena, potentially, who has ended up at Penn State, by the way. So I'm interested to see that, but, almost 50 catches for Johnson. This is a guy who, knows how to work it. Marion, he was a solid receiver and All-American return man, and hopefully is able to impact the game in, both of those kind of ways. So, I think that the pair of them makes up, for one 5-star, if you will, in the portal. So I wouldn't probably anticipate Miami being done at wide receiver in the portal, unless I'm missing a superstar who's out there potentially.
I can't think of one, but that's neither here nor there. They're I guess offensive line, maybe a tackle. I haven't heard of anything out there. Also on the offense, it doesn't seem like they're looking for anyone else at tight end. Going to stay with Jack Nickel, Brock Shot, I should say, Luca Gilbert, Elijah
Alex
Lofton's
Bauman.
there. Yeah, Alex Bauman's there. That walk-on that showed out in the spring game is around. Yeah. So there's that. Running back. Are we still, I think, in the mix for North Dakota State kid? Was it Shamar Brown? I think he visited last week. I think we're competing with Nebraska. I don't know if he's committed yet or not. And then also looking at the kids from NC State, Raphael, I think is his name.
Yeah, so I think that running back, again, just a body, like a game-ready body, is a guy. It would be a good get. I know AJ Allen is transferring out of FIU or is in the portal. I wouldn't mind getting him back, but I know that he wants to start, but I'm not going to give him starters snaps, but again, I was firmly of the belief that Miami had 5 starting caliber running backs last year, and AJ Allen was one of them, especially from what we saw when he got in the game, late in games. So I would welcome him back. Maybe that's just a me thing. But yeah, I think that on offense, maybe looking for a little bit of tackle depth. I saw Cam Pringle from South Carolina. It's not Miami, but he's committed to sign or somewhere else. But he's big 6'7", 340-pound kind of a dude. And yeah, I would probably rather a depth piece at tackle in from the portal rather than a superstar anyway, because we're chasing after Jackson Cantwell and Keeney Pepe and a bunch of other dudes from the high school ranks, which is still how the foundation of every team should be built. And it's funny because, well, not in this space because I've only been hosting or co-hosting this podcast with you for a short time, but on other shows that I've done and even on the website, I've written about other schools leaning away from having the high school recruiting be the foundation of their roster building and how that was a poor choice. And even for someone like Florida State, who had a mercenary squad for a couple of years, okay, but those mercenaries are going to leave. And if you don't have something set up, you're going to see what you see. And everybody called me stupid. Everybody called me a hater. And Florida State went 2-10. And I tried to tell you.
For the record, I would never call you stupid or a hater.
You wouldn't, but hey, I mean, Brandon does in our group chat all the time. So it is what it is. Shout out to Brandon, who I know is listening or watching.
Yeah. No doubt about it. All right, let's move to the other side of the football because it's more important that Miami fill some positions there. The number one target, I think, is AJ Halsey, this kid from Houston. He was a 3-star athlete out of Texas going into Houston. Or actually, he started out in New Mexico, and then he went to Houston, I believe. Possibly. Yes. And he's a 6 foot, 215 pounds, plays both the free safety and the strong safety. It was, Big 12 honorable mention, a team leader in tackles. I think had the most tackles at Houston for a number of years. Just really a really great player on the field. And someone I think I would love to see Miami get to fill in what was going to be a starting position that Zaquan Patterson left.
Well, potentially for Zaquan. I mean, I know he was in the conversation for starting. I mean, I wanted him to, start. I always said, the law firm of Patterson and Poyser. That's why I wanted my safety for, the next 3 years. So I was hoping he was going to start, but it wasn't firm and nailed on. I think if AJ Halsey does commit here, it would be firmly nailed on that he would be starting. And that's something that I am hopeful for. I think that, guys in the room have talent and potential, a Dylan Day, a Markeith Williams or whatever, but, someone with the production at multiple schools already, to his credit, as AJ Halsey. And I know that the teams he was on were not great, but he himself has been spectacular. And it's kind of going back to the earlier conversation that we had about the NFL draft. Sometimes you look at teams, sometimes you look at players, and AJ Halsey is a player. And getting him would be a really, really good get and solidify the reconstruction of the secondary, which desperately needed it for the Miami Hurricanes.
I think, and by the way, Halsey's on campus or was on campus maybe yesterday. This week, definitely, he was in campus, on campus. I also think they got a visit from Brent Austin from USF, the cornerback, 5'11", 180 pounds, out of California. So we'll see how that goes. I hate to say that they still really need to fill in some holes on defense, but they do. There's also some other guys like Noah King. He left Kansas State. UF Greg Smith, did he visit down here? Has he committed anywhere? I'm not sure.
I believe he's visited, but has not committed anywhere. But,
right.
As you go through the names, basically, I think that in the secondary, Miami is where we were along the offensive line back in the Casey McDermott, Trevor Darling days, which is we need to throw numbers at the problem. We need to get a bunch of dudes and figure it out. I think that we did that in the first iteration or first installment of the portal this year. Emmanuel Carnley's, 6'3", 6'4" corner transfers in from Arizona, figures out he's maybe not in the mix, and these coaches or the style of play or whatever, he didn't necessarily fit. So he's transferring out. So we're looking at some of these other dudes. We brought in, Zachariah Poyser. We brought in plenty of other guys. You get guys like Damari Brown back healthy, which is, like a new free agent transfer or whatever, since he didn't play last year for the most part. But yeah, we just need to throw numbers at the problem, but quality numbers. So I think that, Gregory Smith, the third transferring in from Florida, he was a blue chip recruit. He would not necessarily be an immediate day one starter like Halsey would be, but I think that he offers longevity similar to Zachariah Poyser, which is promising and interesting. But yeah, you've mentioned a lot of names. I've mentioned some names, but yeah, and this not even taking into account the kids that we've recruited in this recruiting class, last recruiting class, and earlier in the portal. But still, even with all those things being done, we still need to just keep throwing numbers at the problem until we find who is the solution.
Oh, by the way, and maybe I should have led with this, was we did get, besides the receiver, a couple of other commitments over the weekend out of the portal. Linebacker, the kid from NC State, Kamal Bonner. I think he's a Georgia kid that went to NC State, was originally recruited by Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, ended up at NC State. So it looks like he could probably start opposite of Wes on that linebacking core. And then really, people are going to laugh, but just a home run at the kicker spot, and that's Bert Auburn. Both Cam and I think had heard that the kickers were not doing well in the spring. Now, one of them ended up leaving, and we bring in a pretty good one. He made 66 of 86 career field goal attempts, and comes in and probably gets a starting job.
I mean, and this is a kid who's coming from the University of Texas. So you're like, well, they had a pretty good kicker. And him from Texas, even though I know his last name's Auburn. And people wanted him to transfer to Alabama, but remember, you cannot transfer portal in the spring in conference in the SEC. Yeah. So he had to go find somewhere else. And then, again, look, we've had very good kickers, right? We had Badgley, who's been in the league and kicking for my Detroit Lions until he tore his hamstring off the bone, right? You had Jose Borregales, the older brother, come and win a Grozo Award. Then you have Andres Borregales, the younger brother, continue the Borregales kicking dynasty, getting drafted in the 6th round. Recent, and that's not even going back further than the past decade. But we've had very strong kickers, and you're going to, again, be in a spot of contention. You're not going to just be making 6 field goals a game while your team is getting blown out 63-18 or something like that. You're going to be having a chance. You're going to be on television in big moments with big kicks. So, yeah, you've seen 2 of the last 3 kickers get drafted. I don't know why the older Borregales never got a chance in the NFL. It's crazy to me. But 2 of the last 3 kickers have been drafted, and you're looking and saying, hey, I've played at Texas. Texas. And now we're going to Miami. So I think, and it's, people want to talk about it, but when you miss kicks, you remember the name of the kicker, bro. You want it to be, set it and forget it. Andres Borregales missed 1 kick his senior year. You know what I mean? You want that. And Bert Auburn has that kind of ability. So getting him, you know, the Carter Smith kid from FAU, boom, kickoffs out the back of the end zone. Fine.
Yep.
Abram Murray, you know, the other top recruit from a couple of years ago that we wanted to, and if you're doing it like your college football video game dynasty, you sequence it perfectly. You get a top 3 kicker the year before your current kicker graduates, he redshirts, and then you hand over the keys. But through that year and into the spring, Abram Murray just proved himself. He was very good in high school. He was ranked number 3 in America. He made 80 or 90% of his kicks, unlike Bubba Baxa, who only made 4 of 10 his senior year in high school. And we're trying to say, oh, he's going to be better. He was good, and then the lights were too bright, so he left. Fine. But you go and get a trusted, proven commodity like Bert Auburn, it's a home run,
man. Defensive line still looking for some help there. Maybe a tackle. And a couple of guys they had their eyes on either stayed where they were or went somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what's happening with that position.
And that's why I was hopeful that Josh Horton was going to stay and be developed, because we're still saying, okay, you can go, and we're going to go get a replacement. Are we? And if you don't, now you're taking one of these young kids and maybe having to play them a year early. And I know that you're thinking, well, it's just a year. People would have been very upset if Ahmad Moten Sr. had gotten the playing time in 2023 that he got last year, because he wasn't ready in 2023.
Correct.
But he made a big leap, and then he stepped up and he earned that playing time last year. But after another couple mango seasons to grow and develop, especially on the inside, because everybody ain't ready to play day one.
Correct.
Right? It just is what it is. And so, that's why I was saying I had half of an emotion when he left, because Josh Horton is 6'5", 295, or probably up to 310 on the inside. He might not be the best guy, but it's kind of like that crock pot thing. Set it and forget it. I'm going to go check back on those ribs over there in 6 hours, and they're going to be nice and tender and all barbecued. You know what I mean?
Yep.
I was a little, that's why that one also for me, because it's hard to get tackles, offense or defense. But big dudes at offensive or defensive tackle, they come at a premium for a reason. So losing one who could have maybe eventually developed into, even if it's a back end of the rotation guy, a rotational kind of a player, and you lose him, those are moves that will then necessitate Ruben Bain moving inside a little, Armando Blunt moving inside a little, Akeem Mesidor, moving inside a little, which is they can do, but it's not really where you want to play them. But if the alternative is someone who's clearly not ready for prime time, then yeah, I would rather take, Bain inside, even if he's not operating at the top end of his skill set and abilities. That's better than the alternative. So yeah, I will be interested to see if or who Miami's able to get as a game-ready rotational defensive tackle.
Just that's, it's really hard to find that guy that is game ready, whose body is ready, who has the strength to play at that position day one, unless they are a feisty veteran, which a lot of times you may not find in the transfer portal this late.
Right. I mean, we found Malik Barrow early. We found David Blay, who's on the team this year, coming from Louisiana Tech, who had 46 tackles, 11 tackles for loss, and 6.5 sacks. Great. But we got him early.
Yeah, early.
Now, this is cruising into Golden Corral at 9:58, and they close at 10.
Oh, no.
You know what I mean?
You don't want the scraps.
That's what they're not dropping hot, fresh chicken at 9:58.
No.
You know what I mean? So, that was, hey, we go, I remember when I worked at Miramar High School, it was like a senior event, and then like we did the event and also then went to Golden Corral because it was like included in like the area and whatever. Cool. But that was when they opened at 11 a.m. for the lunch service. Oh, okay, cool. So your first one's in. Great. Oh yeah, that chicken is hot and fresh out the grease. Cool. Yeah, you get whatever. Oh, it's a fresh pot of mac and cheese. Great. Oh, you had the yeah. Nah. But for defensive tackle right now, it's 9:58 p.m. They close at 10, and we just went through trying to get a full, hot, fresh out the grease meat. Ain't gonna happen. You can get what's left, and you're gonna like it.
It reminds me of my days of yore. Walking around Miami Beach very late or early, depending on how you looked at it, looking for a slice of pizza, and finding one that was definitely sitting in the display case for a long time, and then they throw it in the oven for about 6 seconds, and that's what you take, man. That's what's left.
Hey, and I mean, I've also been to the probably exact same establishment at a similar time of the morning, and that piece of pizza was delicious.
Oh, well, yes.
At that time, because that's what you could get, you know.
Correct.
But like if I'm making plans with Bay for Valentine's Day or our anniversary or whatever, probably not gonna make that choice. But tough times, you know, like it's 4:30 in the morning. You just left from Cameo. You're smelling like outside. You've been dancing all night. Somebody probably spilled a little drink on you. Smell like something that was being smoked or toked or whatever. Your feet hurt, your head is pounding, your ears are ringing, and you know what? That piece of pizza, at this place right on Washington, that's only open till 6, and it's the last one there. And I got a $5 bill left in my pocket.
Get that slice.
That's the one.
Yep.
And it was incredible at that time for that reason.
Correct.
But then, you're not going to have that for Sunday brunch. You're not going to have that for Tuesday lunch. You're not going to have that for anniversary dinner. But the thing is, and just going back to the comparison, whoever Miami gets in the transfer portal is that piece of pizza that you're going to have for every meal, good, bad, or otherwise, for the rest of this season. Oh, my family's in town and they want to go to the best brunch in town. That piece of pizza. Oh, business lunch with great colleagues. That piece of pizza. Oh, it's like a fifth date. I think that we're gonna go steady. Or Jesus, wow, that aged me. But I want
steady.
I know, right? I'm gonna formalize this relationship. You know, we're gonna like and everything. Like, you know, we're together now. And this is going to be the thing. This is going to be the meal that greases that whole conversation and everything. That same piece of pizza.
I feel like you just pulled something out of a different world.
A different world was going steady. I went all the way back to Happy Days.
With different strokes.
Man. Woo, Jesus. Wow. Okay. And you wouldn't believe it from that previous statement, but I promise you that Brian is older than I am, guys. But these things happen, and hey, I'm glad to be here with you, and I hope you enjoyed my ranting.
Yeah, no, I did. On that note, we will get out of here, but plenty more action to come.
I want to give one positive shout out before we go.
I know where you're going, but go ahead.
Miami Hurricanes